Thank you, Daniel. Going to be very helpful for what we're going to be talking about today. Before I start, I would like to welcome everyone and the few new people here. Welcome to our home, to our family. Today we're going to talk about the gift of life. And that's not what we had originally in our schedule. Actually, Andrea was scheduled to talk today, but she decided to go to Washington, so here I am. And this lecture we put together a year ago exactly, and we recently were able to go over it again in Atlanta, so I thought it would be just an easy thing for me to do, to speak about it today. And to start, we will go to the introduction of this book, The Big Enigma, chapter 11, where Leon Denis says, "Spirit, soul, who reads through these pages, where do you come from, where are you going? You rise from the deep of the abyss and climb the innumerable steps of the ladder of life. You walk toward the eternal homes where the big law calls us and where the hand of God guides us to. You are going to the light, to beauty, to wisdom, contemplate and meditate. Everywhere, the beauty of nature solicits your attention. In the study of nature, you will gather the courage, the trust, and the appropriate awareness of your worth and of your future. Your journey is immense, but the end exceeds in splendor anything that you might conceive." So I really like this idea, because here Denis introduces the topic to us with basically these two questions. He's asking us where we're coming from and where we're going. He speaks precisely about what Daniel was saying, from this journey, from the abyss of unconsciousness to a position of full awareness and wholeness and oneness with God. And then he asks us to observe nature, to meditate about nature. And in this observation of nature, we will understand about the essence of life, and we will also understand our worth in the scheme of God and of the universe. So when I put the title, The Gift of Life, we're not going to be approached the gift of life from the perspective of this life here that we are living today, but of the life of the immortal spirit, in such a way that if we don't wake up tomorrow for whatever reason, we're still going to be grateful for life, because life will continue on. We're just going to be alive in a different dimension. But we're going to be talking about this life, the life of the immortal spirit. And what we'll do this morning, we're going to go through the journey that also is going to include our lives here now. And so Denis has this ability to take us from the ground where we walk and invite us to project ourselves into the universe. And, you know, it's not every day that we think about ourselves as being divine beings who will inherit the universe. The universe is, for us, actually, when you look at the stars and the planets, those are your future homes. We don't really think this way every day. But sometimes it's important to do that, because we lose perspective of who we truly are. We are divine beings, and this entire universe belongs to us. This is our destination. So again, it's a way that we're not often used to think about. So he has this ability to invite us to project ourselves, and in doing that, to connect with our essence and to glorify life from a different perspective. But to go through this journey, let's start from the beginning. And the beginning is God. So Leon Denis defined God as the primary cause of all things, all consciences, and all forms. God is absolute and is necessary, is manifested to the universe that is a representation of itself without being confounded with it. So very much like the definition that we have in the Spirit's book, a little bit more poetic in Leon Denis' style. But here he's telling us that God is the primary cause of everything. It's the reason why we're here. Is represented in the things in the universe, and we say, well, God is everywhere. And when we want to talk about God, a lot of times we use the creation, such as nature. But God and nature are not the same thing. The nature is the creation of God. So this is what Denis is basically telling us here. And there are two main ways in which God is going to be present in our lives. One is through the creative force. One day God wanted each one of you to exist. You were created by God's will, by God's love. So God is this creative force, is this creative love that generated all of us at some point. But also God is manifested in our lives through its laws. So when we say that God is carefully taking care of each one of us, it's not that we have this man who's observing our steps as we go through our lives, but we have laws in the universe that take care of us, that make sure that we're educated, that make sure that we grow up, that make sure that we become fully aware of who we are, and make sure that we achieve our final destination, which is happiness and harmony. And so God will be present in our lives, sustaining our life and guiding us to the spiral of evolution. And it's present in this way for everything. I mean, the very small cell that's floating on the waters of the oceans, all the way to the angelical regions in the space. The laws are the same, they are present, they're pure harmony, and they are guaranteeing that everything is evolving, including you and I. And so when God creates us, we are all perfect beings, but also perfectible in the sense that God gives each one of us the seeds, the potentials to become gods ourselves. And God gives us two main tools, which are the intelligence and our free will. So with the intelligence, we become able to distinguish what is good and not so good for us. And with the free will, we're able to make the choices. Precisely because we have intelligence and free will, when we look at nature, we observe that everything in nature is in perfect harmony. Only we, human beings, are the ones who cry. Why? Because we have intelligence and we have free will. And God gives us this opportunity to exercise our free will and to learn from ourselves what is good and what's not so good for us. In the same way that we teach a child to ride a bicycle by giving the bicycle. Say, now you go on. I cannot tell the child how to ride the bicycle. The child needs to get on the bicycle and fall and get up and to trial and error, learn and grow. And so the same thing God does to us. God wants us to understand the beauty and the value of building our own selves. And you probably have experienced that. If you have already conquered a different area of your life, of your personality, somewhere where you experienced tremendous amount of trouble, and you were able to transcend, you were able to transform, and now you're in peace with that, you know how much that's worth it. And so that's why God made things this way, because God wants us to know the worth of happiness and harmony. And so God will give us, in its mercifulness, multiple opportunities. Leon Denis invited us in the very beginning to observe nature so we can learn about life and the essence of life. So Denis says that when we observe nature, we're going to see that everything in nature happens in cycles. And so he'll say to us, nature sleeps during the winter to wake up in the spring. The day alternates with the night. After rest, it's time to work. The plant dies to be reborn and dries to flourish. And he asks right after that, why would man be the only exception to nature? We too are in this cycle of transformation, dying to be reborn and to continue on. So God gives us multiple opportunities in the process of enlightenment. That's what we call the reincarnation process. The tricky part is, how do we assure the continuity of our learning experiences as we go from one life to another? How do we continue on with the process? And so in Spiritism, we understand that we are beings, three-dimensional beings. We have our physical body, we have the spirit, and in between the spirit and the physical body, we have what we call the perispirit, which is the body, it's the astral body of the spirit. And the spirit Manuel Filomeno de Miranda, in a book called Mental Illness and Obsession, is speaking about the perispirit, speaking about this body of the spirit. He says that this body is an extremely specialized type of computer, much more sophisticated than one can possibly imagine, keeping the evolutionary story of the being archived till the moment in which new mechanisms take place in more evolved levels of evolution. So it's a very interesting quote where he's basically telling us that all our story, all our experiences, and usually the way they are archived and they are imprinted in us is by the emotional content of what we are experiencing. So everything that's emotionally meaningful to us stays in us, positive or negative. And so as we go from one life to another life, this perispirit, with all this information that is the outcome of our experiences, will imprint in the new physical body our needs, will also become a force attracting to our lives the persons, the experiences that we need in order to continue on with our unique evolutionary paths. And this is why Denis will tell us, this is how the psychic being, in all phases of its journey, in or out of the flesh, will be the outcome of the choices made on the way. So today we are here, each one of us has our struggles, has our talents that we also achieve in the course of our lives, our potentials, and there's no one out there that we can blame or that we can give merit to what we have accomplished. We are exactly where we need to be. We are exactly the outcome of our own learning experiences. So this is a little tragic because up to now we're so nice to blame people for our own miseries. And that's what I say, in Spiritism, that's one of the tough things about it. There's no more victims. We cannot be victims anymore. No more room to play this role. And in this process, one of the things that happens is a lot of times we get confused with these two ideas. Where am I in the process of evolution and who am I? And a lot of times when we're trying to define who we are, we define who we are by where we are. What do I mean? When I think about who am I usually define myself by this present experience. So I'm going to say I'm Suzana, I'm a physical therapist, I'm a mother, different things. I'm a spiritist, right? But tomorrow, when I'm outside of the physical body, I'm not going to be a physical therapist anymore. I'm probably going to be a mother of many, or maybe a father, who knows? We change genders, right? So what truly defines us? What truly defines us? What defines us is only what we have in our hearts and what we have in as part of our knowledge. So when we think, who are you, Abraham? You are all your virtues and everything that you know. That's it. Nothing else defines who you are. And so on the negative side of things is a lot of times we feel that we are such low beings. A lot of times we feel, especially when we're in touch with our darkness and our limitations, then we truly define ourselves and identify ourselves with this place of darkness. And I don't know if you have ever felt this way, but a lot of times that makes you feel like so little, so lost. You don't even feel like you're a child of God. You feel like completely disconnected. And this feeling, this perception is what causes us, in our society, this epidemic of low self-esteem and depression. It's because people, it's hard for us to maintain connection with our essence. And a lot of times, because in the very beginning of our evolution, the spirits tell us, a lot of times we are a lot more in touch with the darkness than with the light in us. But I will tell you that darkness does not exist. It's an illusion. Darkness only exists while the light is not present. Light is the only thing that exists, and the goal, the enlightenment process, is to shed light where there is darkness. And that's what we're trying to do as we go through this journey of immortality. Joel Osteen has something very cool that he says. He says that you are not God's mistake, because sometimes that's how we feel. Some people go to the point that they feel like God made a mistake when God created me. Well, that's not possible. God makes no mistakes. God is perfect. And you are a perfect creation of this loving Father. And that's precisely what Jesus meant when he said that the kingdom of heaven is within you. And also the Vedas will tell, and in different traditions we find this idea that we bring in us an unknown friend. And this unknown friend is God in potential for us to develop, for us to be in touch with. Just like Daniel was talking about Jesus, which is the main representation of God's love for us, the highest example. So let me tell you a quick story that I think illustrates extremely well this idea that I'm trying to convey to you. So let's say I have $100 bill in my pocket, and I would like to give to you today. Who would like to have $100? Elsie, with 2 hands. He wants $200. Okay, so now if I take this bill and I throw it on the floor and I step on the bill, right, with my dirty shoes, and I ask again if you guys still want the same bill. Yes? You would? Okay. And then now I have the bill on my hand, I smash it on my hand, I make a little ball with it, and then I ask you again, you still want it? Yes. And that's precisely the way that we need to think about ourselves. Sometimes we are this dirty bill. Sometimes we are all smashed. Sometimes, you know, we're in poor shape. But the bill is still worth $100. So no matter how dark we might feel, no matter how lost we might feel, to God, we are worth exactly the same thing. We're divine creatures. We're just as beautiful, as pure, and as perfect as ever. And that's all that God sees. God sees the perfection in us. And so this is really why we need to try to get in touch with. Sometimes we're in a rough place, but that does not take away the divine in us, does not take our value away. We need to remember that. If we are in darkness, it's gonna pass. Everything is going to pass. Light must prevail. Light is our true nature. One of the great things about the Spiritist doctrine, if you on one hand doesn't allow us to be victims anymore, it does give us power to change. So we are a lot of times in this journey feeling a little lost here and there, but we know that we have the power to change. If no one can make us miserable, it's all within us, the possibilities to make ourselves happy. We cannot change the world around us. We cannot change the way people act towards us, but we can always change the ways in which we react to others. So you can have 2 different people dealing with the same situation, with the same challenge. And for one, it's going to be very difficult, very challenging. And for the other one, it won't be as hard. Why? What's the difference? The difference is the second one has more inner resources to deal with the situation. So what Spiritism does is not change the people around us, is to give us the tools and the resources so we can go through life in a more peaceful and experience life in a lighter way. Not because things are changed, but because we are lighter and we are more in peace, so we can handle the world better. And Chico Xavier tells us that we cannot change the past to make a new present, but we can always change the present to make a new future. So if you're right now in a difficult position, it depends on us, in each one of you and nothing else, to make your day today and tomorrow a different one. And in this journey of evolution, as we try to make new choices, as we try to change our karma from a negative to a positive one, then Leon Denis tells us that the complete education of the soul cannot be done without the presence of effort, sacrifice, and pain. And Daniel was talking about that, right? We need to do our part. So I'm going to focus now on these three aspects: effort, sacrifice, and pain. Because this is what we are trying to achieve as immortal beings. We are trying to achieve the education of our souls. So let's start with effort, and coming back to now this present life, which is also a precious gift. Because the spirits tell us that in the evolution, in the education of the soul, we do progress in the spiritual realm. So when we're outside of our physical bodies, don't think that we're going to be like sleeping, even though I would like to take a good break. But, you know, we continue to live, we continue to do, we continue to grow, we continue to learn. But we need to come back here. Right here in the flesh is where we have our tests, we have our trials. They're going to basically test our knowledge and our ability to feel and to relate and to grow spiritually. So when we wake up in the morning, we say, thank God for another day. Be thankful, because it is truly a gift. The lecture is a little long, so I'm going to skip a few of the steps, otherwise it would take too much time. But let's look at the story of the obstacle in our path. So there's this little story about a king who one day decided to put like this big rock in one of the main roads of the kingdom. And then he went behind a tree and stood there observing the people who were passing by. And the first person who came by, it actually was a group of merchants, and they look at the stone and they just kind of look around to see if there was a way of going around. They found a way, so they went around the big rock and continued their way. Then a second person came and looked at the rock and started blaming the king. The king is not the same anymore. He's not taking good care of the kingdom. Look at the state of the road. And started to, you know, curse and got really angry, and then went around the big rock and kept going. And then there was a third merchant who came, and he was bringing a little cart with vegetables, and when he saw the big rock in the way, he put it down. And then he thought, oh my God, this huge rock is in the middle of the road and really is affecting the traffic of people. No one can go through. So he started to push the big rock, trying to move the rock out of the way. And it took a lot of effort. He really worked really hard. He was sweating. At some point, his hands were all scratched and starting to bleed a little bit. But finally, he was able to move the rock out of the way. And then he bent over to pick up his little cart and continue on his way. And he noticed that once the rock was moved, there was a little dent on the road, and in there was a little bag. So he opens the bag and finds a note from the king saying that whomever had found that bag was now the owner of the gold coins that were inside the bag. The point being that life is gonna give us obstacles. Our friend Ivan, one time doing a lecture here about obstacles, he said the obstacles are a really good thing, because once you have an obstacle, first thing that you do is you say, okay, how am I gonna, you know, go over this obstacle? In the moment that you ask yourself this question, you're becoming smarter. And then you need to come up with some creative way, so you're becoming more creative being. So obstacles make us think, make us grow, because you need to find a solution for the obstacle, right? And so we have two choices in life. We can, well, actually you have many choices, but let's look at a few. You can look at the obstacle and say, well, I'm gonna choose a different road, turn around and go. Or you can go around it, or you can work through it. It's funny because I have done this lecture a few times, and one person, I think, at some point said, oh yeah, I'm having this very difficult relationship, and it's been an obstacle, and I'm just gonna eliminate this person of my life or whatever, and that's it. I'm going through the obstacle. And I didn't say anything, but I was thinking, like, Is that really what it means to go through? Sounds to me like she's going around it and not going through, because going through really means finding the resources in you to deal with the situation, right? To resolve, eliminating people is not necessarily the solution, but learning to live with them might be a better solution. Okay, so effort. And just going back here, what are those gold coins, right? This gold that you find once you go through it is, again, that experience. Only who has gone through it, if you had a very difficult situation that you were truly able to work through, the level of satisfaction, the level of inner peace that you feel is the treasure. Is the treasure that time will not destroy. Is the treasure that you're going to take. It's going to be forever in your heart. It's a joy that this world cannot provide us with. No matter how good it might feel in any moment. When you accomplish something at the moral level, it's hard to describe the feeling, what it is, the joy, the peace, the depth of the feeling. And this is what we take with us, and this is the true treasure that we're trying to gather. So when we move to our next life, we're gonna be rich. And then pain. Well, we just had an entire lecture about pain done by Heather last week. And I'm not copying her because I did that a year ago. But I enjoy very much listening to her. And I'm just bringing here a few pieces again that she mentioned last week. From Leon Denis, he will explain to us that pain is a law of education and equilibrium, an agent of development, a condition of progress. Physical pain produces sensation in the physical body, and moral pain produces feeling in the human heart. So here, Denise is presenting us pain from a different perspective. We don't think of pain this way, but it's a law of education. It teaches us something. It tells us that there's something wrong going on with us. So let me give you an example. Being a physical therapist, in the first 10 years of my career, I work a lot with spinal cord injury patients. Patients who don't move, but also don't feel. A lot of times, if their sensory tracts in the spinal cord are damaged, they won't feel. So what happens is, a lot of times, they decide to cook. And if they're dealing with boiling water and the water spills on their skin, they won't feel pain. They don't know there is something wrong with them. So then they come to the clinic first to treat their burns. Okay, so physical pain tells us that there is something wrong with our physical body. It's a warning sign that tells us, hey, go to the doctor. Look at take care of yourself. And moral pain is the same thing. So every time we're hurting inside, it's because there is something that needs to be attended. We need to take care of ourselves, take care of our spirits, of our beings. And so it's a warning sign. It's not an enemy. It's a friend inviting us to take an inner look and find out what's wrong in us that needs to be addressed. And the image of the chisel that Heather also spoke about last week, when Denise cites Michelangelo, and he will say, focus and do like the sculptor does to the work that he wants to improve. He moved the superfluous, brighten up where it's dark, diffuse the light everywhere, and do not let go of the chisel. So here he's bringing the idea that we're sculptors, right? And that we get the chisel, and what we're doing is, just like the sculptor does, we're working on our work of art ourselves. And so, and in doing that, what happens is sometimes we do get tired, we drop the chisel, but God, who is the main sculptor, and we are God's creations, will never get tired of working on us. So a lot of times when we feel that pain and the suffering getting into our lives, is God working on us, because He won't stop working on us until we're absolutely beautiful and perfect. And so in each soul, the hand of God will be working, developing kindness, love, and compassion, presenting with each tear a new and unknown quality that slept quietly and deeply in us until that moment. Each quality adorns the soul, becomes a treasure of the spirit forever acquired. And that's such a beautiful image, that we have qualities in us, they're still dormant. And sometimes life and sometimes pain and the struggles are the necessary tools that will bring the beauty out of us and will adorn our souls and will look so beautiful and so enlightened. All right, so let me go to my final little story, the story of the cocoon. It kind of brings together the concept of effort and pain. So there was this little cocoon on the way, and this man was passing by and saw the cocoon, and there was a little hole in the cocoon, and he noticed that the butterfly was struggling to get out of the cocoon. So he sat there and observed the cocoon for a long time, for days, and then nothing happened. So he was a very good and kind man, and he decided to help the butterfly. So he went ahead and opened up the hole in the cocoon a little bit more. And sure enough, a few hours later, the butterfly was able to make it out of the cocoon. And now he was observing the butterfly and waiting for the moment that the butterfly would fly. But 1 hour passed, 2 hours passed, many hours passed, and the butterfly was still crawling on the ground. So he was really puzzled. Why is this butterfly not flying, right? So what this man in his goodness did not understand was that it is precisely the struggle, the effort of the butterfly within the cocoon that will allow for the fluid that are in the wings to be drained to the body in order to make the wings strong, so when it's time for the butterfly to truly break, it breaks through and it's fly high. And this, my dear friends, is precisely what we're doing here. Your physical body is your cocoon. And the struggles of life and the efforts that each one is making right now is what is truly strengthening your wings, so the days that you break through, you're going to fly high. You're going to lift yourself to spheres and to levels of life and harmony that a lot of times we're not able to experience here. But this is just a moment. We're talking about the life of the immortal spirit, so let's lose perspective. It feels sometimes that it is so hard and it's so long, but it's not. It's one lifetime. And these struggles are making us strong. So a lot of times, just like a child, we ask God to take away our problems, when we should be asking God to give us the strength and the wisdom and the courage to go through them. So here's a prayer that I'm wanting to introduce to you. I ask for strength. God gave me difficulties to make me strong. I ask for wisdom, and God gave me problems to solve. I ask for prosperity, and God gave me brain and brawn to work. I ask for courage, and God gave me danger to overcome. I ask for love, and God gave me troubled people to help. I ask for favors, and God gave me opportunities. I received nothing that I wanted. I received everything that I needed. So it's a very beautiful prayer that I'll be glad to share with anyone who would like to read it every day. It would be probably a good practice, right? And so the last point in this evolution is precisely sacrifice. Heather touched very briefly on it, and I will too, because we don't really know much about sacrificing yet. We make small sacrifices sometimes, right? Very little. But when we think about the people who we truly admire, who are our heroes, our references, spiritually speaking, what distinguishes them from the majority of us? It is the goodness, it is the love, but above all, think about the lives of Gandhi, Mother Teresa, Chico Xavier. What they have in common is the ability to sacrifice for others. is the ability to forget themselves and live basically for others. That is really what distinguishes them and makes us, admire them tremendously. So obviously, like Daniel also said, we're not going to do leaps here in our evolution, but we can try to take small steps and do exercises of sacrifice where we forget ourselves for the benefit of others, our co-workers, our family members, our friends. And so as we love and as we do good, our spirit, our pure spirit actually lightens up. It becomes more subtle. This body that's made of semi-material matter, energy, the more material we are, the more unconscious we are, the denser this body is. The more enlightened, the more we love, it actually becomes more subtle. It becomes light, but sacrifices increases the irradiative capacity of this body. So it shines, it becomes like a sun. That's what sacrifice does. It really expands. So, these spirits, when they leave a tray of light. And that's what Denis says. Love and kindness brighten the pure spirit, but sacrifice increase the irradiative capacity of the being. Okay, so we have a lot of homework to do, right? And a different perspective into the struggles of life and into suffering. And I will finish going back to the beginning. In the second paragraph of Denis, when he says, everywhere the beauty of nature solicits your attention. In the study of nature, you will gather the courage, the trust, and the appropriate awareness of your worth and of your future. Your journey is immense, but the end exceeds in splendor anything that you might conceive. So this is what I truly hope that we leave here feeling today. Not so much what we learn intellectually, but this sense that we are divine beings, that each one of you is such a beautiful creature. And try to look at your brothers and sisters in the same way. That's the tricky part. I mean, both are tricky, right? If we don't feel this way, we won't be able to see the divine and the beauty in the others either. That's the thing. So the exercise starts with us. It's necessary that we feel this way. And that we understand that even though life can be very hard right now, what awaits for us is immense. It's beautiful. There are no words to describe it. So the journey is always worth it. Thank you.